Phillip Island didn't present a challenge at all for Iamaki and Hagner, who cruised to victory in the Lounge Down Under. The rest of the field, well, a few mistakes and a few key absences shook things up a touch. And now we'll come to a place that can really shake things up, as well as down, left, right, sideways, you name it, because we're at the ring. And we'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We've got the Adam and Adam show here for you today, as Adam Lindgren is joining myself, Adam Young, in the booth. And behind the scenes is our director, Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Nürburgring always presents a challenge. To get an idea of that, well, let's take a look at a few key portions of the track with the Nissan in today's lap guide.
All right, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Coming up to the north curve, you got to be careful not to outbrake yourself with a dip in elevation. Now, we've got to shorten the lap since we don't have time for a full one. Jumping up to high oaks, these are corners that are extremely important to your lap time. Get a poor exit and it'll compromise your speed on this long stretch. Be careful up and over fluke plots because the car will get light here and you want it nice and planted through this double apex right-hander. A little farther down the road is the Swedish Cross, which is flat out in the Nissan. But you've got to stay to the left side of the track to set up for the best line into Ehrenberg. Even though you've got a lot of banking through here, you need to be very careful getting back to the throttle so as not to spin the car. Skipping the valley, out in our forest presents a very tricky sequence of corners. Each one is slower than the next, so trying to bleed off speed while keeping grip can certainly feel pretty hairy. Ideally, you want to set yourself up for the best run into and out of the final right-hander so that you can get a launch down to Metzgefeld. We're going to go past that to the Spiegel curve, where you got to feather the throttle, then hold the left and swing it into miss-hit-miss. That middle apex is the important one, but be sure not to understeer wide into the barrier before Defense Valley. This downhill braking zone is one of the scariest on the track. A quick kink into a slow corner with no runoff means a small problem can become a big one before you know it. But up ahead, we're now braking for Bergwerks. You're going to be climbing uphill with your foot flat to the floor for a long, long time, so be sure to set up your exit properly and don't hesitate too much with your right foot. At the top of the hill is Stahlstrecke, which, if you're brave, can offer a place to pass. It's very tough to keep the car tucked in through here, and I find it frustrating to hit that middle ground just right. From off the corner, it's another short climb, and then you're at the infamous carousel. Line up from the outside of the track and swing it down in. Letting it drift out of the concrete banking and feeding onto the throttle will take a lot of trial and error to find a limit. Across the top of the hill, the entry to Ashbrook may catch a few drivers out if they forget about the understeer. Then you're plunging down into the double apex left, making sure to hug the inside on the exit for a better entry into Brüchen. Then you've got Flansgaard, where once again the car will get incredibly light right before a very important fast turn. This section will be all about threading the needle and going as fast as you dare. Jumping ahead, the braking for Swallowtail often causes a car or two to lose the rear end and wallop the barriers. You'll want to make sure you slow up in time for the left-hander and then be patient with the throttle. The Mini Carousel is a smaller, similar version to its bigger brother, where you just want to drift off that concrete at the end. And then Gallows Hill is going to test the mettle of every driver because this patience-trying right-hander tempts you into trying to go through it flat out. Problem is, a late lift is going to hurt you enormously now that you've hit the Dottinger Hohe. You won't be lifting the whole way past the castle until Tiergarten. Keep your right foot pinned, and then be sure not to brake too hard into Hohenrad, or else you'll lose the car. Finally, there's the street course-like turn 13, and if you've kept it together, you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring.
And these guys will have their work cut out for them today as they try to conquer the 12.94 mile layout, 154 turns here at the Nürburgring today. But we've got some points to talk about. Here last week, Phillip Island, as we talk about, kind of shook things up a little bit. We'll get the GTP standings on the board. Antti Lepisto still on top of that, but with that win last week, Arto Iamaki only 1 point behind. Of course, he's the only one in the top 3 that actually has a win. Is Lepisto and Rob Olenek just being consistent here so far. Albrecht and Gerber both have wins so far this year, and they are sitting 4th and 5th. Those GTO standings are just as interesting, and Adam, why don't you talk us through those?
Definitely. Yoni Hagner with another win last week comes home, and he's still holding that first position. Michael Houghton, though, with some good consistency, along with Philip Lake last week, take up spots 2 and 3, with Jamie Hall dropping 3 spots due to that trouble that he had during that race. Reed Miller up 3 spots, though. He's appearing on our board for the first time this season. You'll probably likely see these guys up here for most of the season. Adam?
All right, so now next up, we have the championship Milk Zoo standings. And I will be totally 100% honest with you just because I'm not here every week for this. So I got kind of introduced to this just like I'm going to introduce to you. Milk Zoo, of course, is there to help bring attention to the series with some of the Italian drivers, and it's doing the trick so far as Franco Scurry in the lead on that board with Juan Ignacio Haracha. They're just really only about one race behind. One bad race by Scurry could get Haracha up there and challenging for this Milk Zoo Championship. Very intriguing there just for the Italian drivers. So that's nice to see. All right, so Adam, this race, of course, at the Nürburgring, always an interesting one, and also a slightly different than what it is at most of our races here so far this year.
Yeah, definitely. This is round 4 of 12. This is a weird one because usually Campbell does timed races, but it's actually a lap race. We have 7 laps that the drivers are going to do, and it's likely that the Nissans will not catch the Audis, so we'll be seeing the Audis finish quite a bit after the Nissans do. It's open setup with no fast repair, and a new rule for this year, 17 incidents equal a penalty, 25 incidents equal a DQ. We will likely see some penalties and DQs this race, Adam.
All right, so we do have a large grid, of course, as usual with this series. They do start on the backstretch as far as the pace lap. Qualifying already happened, so we have the grid. Let's go ahead and take a look at who's going to be leading the GTPs here down to the line. First up, of course, Albrecht, Andres Valentucius will be starting in second. Fabian Gerber and Arto Iamake in row 2. Row 3 is going to go to Steve Bycroft, Alexei Eloma, and row 4 is going to go John Atkinson Jr. Kid He Ingstrom will be alongside him. Row 5, Dustin Marauder, Nicholas Mukanis will be in row 5, and row 6 for the rest of the GTPs here. Balanced field, by the way, today. Fabian Youngbluth, Gary McGreevy will be in row 6. Row 7 is going to Riku Alatu, and Matthias Hafdahl will be in 14th, and he'll round out the GTPs. GTOs, Adam.
Yeah, because of the split, we have an even field today, so this race split into 2 splits, so that'll be interesting in the points. Villy Rolla starting off on pole with Rob Olenek alongside him. Dennis Neidhart's going to start off third with Yoni Hagner fourth. Michael Houghton, Philip Lake fifth and sixth. Jamie Hall, Franco Scurry, Ben Lafter, and Daniel Satro round out your top 10 with Michael Fowles, Joseph Erlbach, Jim McGill, Thomas Valchik, and Marco Sassana rounding out your GTO field.
All right, so there you go. The race did split here for today, so there is another group running as well that I'm sure will shake up the points a little bit once everything is said and done. And you join us next week whenever we go out to Zandvoort. So that'll be an interesting one, totally different than what you're going to find here at the Nürburgring today. But we do got to get through this one first. And this field, one thing we're expecting, Adam, we were talking about, we don't really expect the GTPs to actually lap the GTOs here for today, at least up into the leaders of the GTOs. So lap traffic at least won't be too big of a concern, which, when we talk about the Nürburgring, that's a victory in itself.
Yeah, it is, and here they go. They're going to start off well. It looks like Justin Albrecht's got off to a great leap over Andreas Valentuelis, and he's going to go through turn 1 quite effectively right now in the GTPs. It's very, very tidy in the GTPs, Adam.
Yeah, everybody gets single file pretty quick all throughout the field. A few moves. Rico Alatu, as I would expect, already trying to make a move back there to try to gain some of the spots that he did not get on the starting grid. For the GTOs, just about the same. Everybody nice and tidy for the most part. I don't see any incident with those guys having started this race. And everybody, it seems to be clear at the moment with Rolla having to jump on Olenek.
Yeah, now it's time to battle the track. This is where the Nürburgring gets very difficult. Not only are you battling the track, but other people, but the track is the main opponent today. And it's going to be interesting to see whether everyone can hang on to their cars as they go through this first lap with the temptation to try and make passes.
154 turns. That's how many turns you have to go through here at the Nürburgring as Justin Albrecht now leads Andreas. We got something, Adam?
Yeah, Matthias Havdahl looks like he's gone off. The Audis are zipping by him. We have him on screen now. He's had to tow, as well as Fabian Jungbluth. That's a big name who we've seen last week. Oh, and more wrecking going on.
Jungbluth got hit hard, and looking at some of the other stuff, I see Havdahl was involved in that one with Jungbluth. Looking at McGreevy, seems like he had a problem, or he started off the grid.
Yeah, looks like everyone had a problem there. Gary McGreevy actually is just joining us. He didn't start off on the grid, so quite a few drivers having trouble. That was Rico Alatolo who had trouble, and he's now decided to call it a day, so that's one car already gone.
Yeah, Alatu, I believe, had some sort of suspension damage, so he might be trying to take the tow and see if he can get repaired. See Michael False now having problems. Track already naming victims, as most of these problems that we're seeing are self-inflicted by just running into the grass, losing traction, and collecting some other people as well. So it's already seeing the shakeup begin.
Yeah, Adam, another driver has had trouble as Michael Faust back in, as you mentioned, back in the 15th in the Audi GTOs. He's slow on the track. He's going to have to try and limp it around to get back to there. But the lead in the GTOs now has gone to Willy Rolla. Willy's doing a good job staying ahead of Joni Hagner, but Joni's right on his tail with Rob Olnick and Dennis Neidhart behind, so these Audis are not spreading out as much as I expected them to on this first lap.
And already looking at the teammates here, Rollo and Hagner, trying to get away. Of course, Hagner getting around Rob Olenek just a little while ago. So that helps get them into that 1-2 position, and kind of helps helps Rollo that he doesn't have to worry about Rob Olenek back there as much with his teammate right behind. But still, as you talked about, the track, the main victor here for today. How about a change for position? Is looking at Iamake. He's trying to get around Fabian Gerber, and we'll see. Gerber makes contact with Saloma. That's a huge hit. Gerber almost goes over.
And they're blocking the track. They're blocking the track. More cars are in it. This is huge.
That's a blind corner. And
Kitty Engstrom got collected. John Atkinson Jr. was collected as well.
Oh, that's just a vicious hit there for Engstrom. Atkinson involved.
Yeah, this is huge points implications as well, Adam, because Fabian Gerber has challenged for the points lead the last 2 seasons, but this is 2 DNFs for him. That's going to be huge, huge news.
Yeah, if you want to get an idea of how fast things can happen here, just go right on board with Engstrom on this, because as Engstrom comes around this corner, everybody's going to say, oh, he had enough time to react and all that. Well, get an idea here of just how much time he had. Tracks, block tracks. Oh, man, my exit route is covered too. And, you know, you're on the brakes there, but you're already in the grass. They only work so well. And that's where trouble began. So Engstrom will find himself out of this race, I'm sure. And attrition already playing a role.
Yeah, so here's the big story in the Audi GTO field. Now that we've covered that wreck, that just reduced our GTP field. It cut it in half, Adam. But the big story is that Willy Rolla and Joni Hagner, our two Glacier Racing drivers, are out in the lead, and Philip Lake and Jamie Hall, our 2 Dirty Torque drivers who've been challenging them all season for the lead, they're stuck in 6th and 7th. It is nearly impossible to pass on this track because you're fighting the track so long. Here we go, looking at Philip Lake on screen now. He's got a lot of cars. He's got 4 cars between him and his nearest rival up ahead of him. This is going to be very interesting to see how they sort out the points here.
It is, and that's going to be one thing I'm kind of expecting to come out of here for today, is that's going to be a little bit of it's going to be a very interesting points day with how much they are going to get shaken up. And just watching those guys now, their best advantage right now is to try to stay close and do some drafting, you know, during the long stretches here that you do have on this track. But even then, as you mentioned, very hard to pass because mistakes loom at every corner, and the curbs here are so dangerous. As I'm looking at Sadro doing some sliding after bouncing off the curb, he's able to keep it back straight on the track. But I mean, I've been watching Ruala hit curbs, Hagner hit curbs, and every one time I see something,
Sadro's off and he's in the wall.
Oh, I hate to see it for Sadro.
Yeah, this is something we're going to see a lot. If you hit those curbs, it's going to project you out across the track, and these Audis historically do not have a lot of grip, especially at high speeds. But if they get a little bit upset. So here we go. We're on to the big straight now. This is time where it's going to be time to make a pass. Rob Olnick close up behind Yoni Hagner. Dennis Neidhart not too far behind either. But look at Rob Olnick get the run.
Yeah, big run there. I've seen some cars, some races where you see guys pass each other 2 or 3 times down that straightaway. It always ends up interesting, as looks like Ruala is going to have to fight off Hagner. He can't fight off Hagner. He's going to let Hagner have the lead. He's going to take Olenek here with him. Is Olenek going to be able to clear Ruala? It looks like he will, with no time to come back. So shuffle Hagner to the front of the GTOs with Olenek back in second. And now look at that. Neidhart and Houghton were able to catch right back up to the back of the leaders.
But the big news is that Phil Lake was not able to catch up to the back of these guys. He was a 1.5 seconds behind by the time they got to the end of that last straight, and Jamie Hall was even further behind that. Phil Blake be able to gain the time, as you see there on screen, unbraking, but that's a huge, huge problem for him. He's going to have to allow his teammate Michael Houghton to tow him up to this lead pad.
Right now, race on the track is with these GTOs, as they have maintained the fact that they are very close in points and very close here on the Speedway. Just to give people a real quick update on what's going on up in the GTPs, though, Justin Albrecht continues to probably be the cleanest driver in this field so far, I would venture to say, Adam. Very mistake-free, very clean laps. I haven't seen a mistake out of him yet.
Billy Roll's gone around.
Rolla's around.
He's out. That is huge points implications.
Go back and take a look at this on the GSRC replay machine.
Oh, through plots.
Oh, man.
It upsets his car.
That's not a soft impact either, which is exactly why he's decided to go ahead and retire. We ride on board with the Finnish driver, and once again, another incident that ultimately ends up being self-inflicted in a way. Oh, and look at Rob holding Yoni Hagner. We go back live. Yoni Hagner almost got taken out by Olenek because Hagner had to save the car. Olenek couldn't get it slowed down in time, and they do make a little bit of contact. They're both able to keep it straight, but that was almost your first 2 being taken out right there.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that for Rob Olenek, these Audi engines are prone to getting top speed damage. And if he gets top speed damage on this track, especially with that long straight, he's going to be in big trouble. Dennis Neidhart putting on the pressure now.
Yeah, that front end damage is not going to help Olenek out at all, as Neidhart now going to be able to put the pressure on. And they don't produce a lot of downforce on the front end of these GTOs, but they do. And especially, of course, the extra drag on some of the longer straights is going to hurt as well. So look for Neidhart here to be in a good position to possibly take second position. And that's going to leave a challenge for Hagner to have to hold him off, I believe, here. And right Adam, now, I'd say right now my favorite in GTOs might just be a battle between Neidhart and Houghton here to end this thing.
It's possible, but Neidhart's going to have to try and hang on to it because he's been having some trouble across the track. But don't look now, but P2 in the GTPs is starting to close up. Andreas is getting caught up by Ardo, and this is a big deal because Ardo just won the last session. If he could win this one as well, if he can get up to the back of Justin Albrecht, this would be a huge, huge points day for him.
Yeah, but of course, Albrecht continuing to run away from those guys, so he's got work cut out for him if he's able to make it. But Yamake is another one of those guys that's ran mostly mistake-free so far. He just has to get to the back of Andreas here to just be able to use that draft. So that's going to be key for him over the next, I'd say about a quarter of a lap or so to be able to try to make a run at him. Andreas, by the way, has probably the most colorful car out there on the grid today. You can very easily identify his Nissan GTP out on the grid. So always like pointing out the interesting paint schemes, but that isn't helping him catch Justin Albrecht at this moment. So, but man, I just can't believe how small that field has gotten here in the GTPs. GTOs, though, going through the carousel, coming out of the carousel, and they were neck and neck, going all the way back to 5th position. They're going to the carousel. On the exit, they kind of spread out just a little bit. But I have a feeling as we approach Dotner Howell again that they're going to be closing back up, and I think we're going to see some more positions swap hands here.
Yeah, I would guess that Rob Olenek is going to be able to make a pass on Joni Hagner for the lead if he can hang on to it when they get back down to the long straight. And Phil Lake has been able to catch up to the back of these guys. Jamie Hall has been left 2.5 seconds in tow of these guys. So Phil Lake climbing his way back up front. If he could just hang on to this position here and then just take a couple opportunities on the straights, he doesn't need to take any risks today. All he has to do is just finish well. We know how bad his luck has been recently. So a good finish for him would be a great way to boost his point standings.
Yeah, and staying safe in a race like today, you very well still might end up with a podium finishing class, as we've already seen, things can happen very quickly and collect a lot of cars. See right there on your screen, Justin Albrecht now going purple, setting the fastest lap of the race here so far as he continues to run away with the overall race lead.
You know, it looks like we had a pass for P5 with Steve Bycroft and Dustin Herroder. That happened on the long straight. It looked to me like Dustin Herroder actually pulled over for Steve Bycroft here, knowing that Steve was fast.
Adrius is off. Adrius is off. Mario Iamaki now right back onto his bumper, or well, underneath his rear wing. That allows Arto Iamaki here to have a chance. He's got the draft. That off there by Adrius cost him a lot of time, and now you can see what that's done to him here on track. Sorry to cut you off there, Adam. Just that's developing situation here for P2 in the GTPs. Arto's going to take a look. I don't think Adrius is going to have any choice here but to let him have the position, move Iamaki to P2.
Yeah, Adrius looks like he's got some right side damage there that's affecting his top line speed and possibly his stability as well. So now Arto Iamaki has made that pass, but the Audis are back onto the front stretch.
Yeah, now in Dotner Howe, and they kind of got separated out there a little bit right before they hit it. That's not helped their case as far as trying to make any big moves on that straightaway. So we don't need to go there. I think the battle here is still going to remain with the GTPs for the next couple of minutes to see if Adrius is able to overcome some of that front splitter damage and get back up to Arto Iamaki. That off was definitely in a rough part of the grass back there, and that's probably where he got the majority of that damage.
Yeah, I think one of our other lead commentators, Joe Peak, would definitely love that paint scheme on Adrius's car because that is a very colorful paint scheme. But let's see whether that color can help him go fast here and catch back up to Arto or stay on him. And let's see whether or not Justin Albrecht has pulled that lead up to 6.5 seconds. An impressive lead for Justin Albrecht. But let's see whether or not Arto Iamaki can cut into that at all.
Oh, right now he hasn't been able to separate himself here from Adrius. Is still just kind of hanging in there. Within that second and a half is what I look for in the draft to be able to kind of at least be able to use it. And he's still hanging there, but the further he gets back, the more that front end damage is going to start to affect him. The good news for Adrius, though, is it's a long way back to fourth position. So even if he isn't able to get back to Arto Iamaki, as long as he runs mistake-free the rest of the way, should still get a podium here this afternoon.
Yeah, and Adam, it looks to me like back in the GTOs, Rob Olenek is starting to hold up Dennis Neidhart and Michael Houghton a little bit. These three drivers have been going neck and neck just over the last couple of turns over the through plots. Well, it was just very tight. And here's Michael Houghton right on the back of Dennis Neidhart. That is as close as you could get. Michael Houghton nowhere to go though. This track's so difficult to pass at.
It is. Danger looms at every corner here at the Nürburgring. Can see just how much.
Adam, Jim McGill has flipped over on his lid. He has just retired from this race. But Jim McGill, oh my goodness, that was a wreck.
Go see if we are able to take a look at that one as that Audi GTO. Not usually prone to flipping. Oh, the same place that we lost Alto there in Ruala a little while ago, I believe. It was actually Ruala. Just the car gets light and it shoots him into the tire barrier and up and over he goes.
Yeah, it's a risky spot for these Audis, and everyone's going to have to be very careful going over that. A lot of times, the Audis will want to take as much speed over that, and that means they get a little bit airborne. I've also seen drivers later in the race brake before they get to the crest of that hill, so that way they don't get too upset over the top. but some of these drivers falling prey to that jump now.
Yeah, look at Jerry McAreevy. He had started in the pits. He just found himself into trouble. So trouble does continue as we continue to see cars drop off. So not a good day as far as attrition, but you expect it to not be a good day as far as attrition when you come to the Nürburgring, as this is probably one of the toughest tracks in all of iRacing and one of the toughest tracks in all of the world, really, as these guys have to fight that challenge here for today. So we mentioned there a little while ago that we weren't really expecting the GTPs to lap the leaders of the Nissans, and that's going to end up being the case, as Justin Albrecht has now completed half of this race, and the leaders of the GTOs are still only a minute 43 or so behind them. Who's that in the grass?
Oh, this is Michael Houghton getting passed by Rob Olenek, or by Dennis Neidhart, rather. Wow, it looks like everything's just going to settle out the way that it was, which is crazy considering what just happened there. That was about as close as you could get, but this is allowing Joni Hagner to get away. These guys have got to get going at him.
Yeah, they got to start sorting themselves out, going through the carousel. Now, Rob Olenek does not have a good carousel entry, hits that banking a few times. Neidhart able to stay off of them, but that once again is going to allow Hagner to maybe get a few more tenths out of that, and still trying to do his best to run away from those. And that's the best thing that he can do right now while those guys are back there fighting. These guys need to get nose to tail and just start running and see if they can catch the leader, Joni Hagner, in the GTOs. Philip Lake still hanging on to the back of this pack and still just trying to, just be there. Meanwhile, Jamie Hall has fallen about 4 seconds back from these guys.
Speaking about falling back, what's not happening is Andreas is not falling back from Ardo in the GTPs. He's right on his tail. This front end damage is not hurting him being behind Ardo Iamaki. It looks like he's setting himself up possibly for a pass here. Ardo seems to be struggling a little bit on those tires now.
That could be key. See a podium shift up there as Arto Iamaki now having to hold him off, and that's one of the higher speed portions. Is now we're closer to the top of the hill now at this point, and it's all downhill from here, but you're also gaining a little bit more speed as you guys are catching 185 miles per hour or so. Andreas now looking, trying to see if he can have some entry here in the next corner. He's going to back off and let Arto Iamaki have it. But Andreas showing that he can get back to him if he so chooses.
Yeah, this is very intense racing, especially at these high speeds. These GTPs could do so much of this course flat out. It's not even funny. And look how fast they're going through these sectors as well. Nose to tail. This shows just the kind of skill we have in this Kamel GT series. It's just impressive to see these drivers fight it out.
Yeah, looking at the overall now, that's right there. Once again, seeing that draft play a role in keeping Andreas right there with Arto Iamaki. Oh, Andreas has to save it. Back in, tried to step out on him just a little bit. Doesn't lose a lot of time, but I bet that got his heart rate going just a little bit.
And back at the GTOs, we have a battle that might be gearing up for the lead. It's just the straight's not long enough. They're not getting, none of the guys behind Joni Hagner or Rob Olenek are getting good runs coming up to the straight, and so it sets them out. They're about half a second to a second behind whenever they start this straight, and that doesn't allow them to be close enough to try and make a pass. These guys have really got to get closer if they're going to try and do anything here, but since that's kind of the only place you can pass in an Audi GTO around this track. Oh no! Rob Olenek misses a shift. Dennis Neidhart right on his back bumper, unable to do anything. He gets blocked off. That's going to bring Michael Houghton back into the mix.
Yeah, that was almost disastrous contact there between Neidhart and Olenek, as Neidhart really didn't have anywhere to go if Olenek didn't grab that gear in time, but he was able to grab it. But that does allow Houghton back in, and that's also going to allow Hagner to once again try to scoot away just a little bit. The group there with Olenek and Neidhart was actually just a touch, and I mean a touch, faster than Joni Hagner that last time by the start-finish line for that previous lap, but not enough to be making significant gains, as now these guys working lap 4 of a 7-lap race. So time is clicking even with these, almost 7-minute laps here.
Yeah, Michael Howden looks like he's got this first sector down pat, whereas Dennis Neidhart seems to be struggling a little bit. Michael Houghton's right on his back bumper, and Dennis is right on the back bumper of Rob Olnick, but there's just nowhere to go around here. They're going to have to take a risky move if they're going to try and make it past, and Joni Hagner's just sitting up there, biding his time, managing his tires, just trying to look in his rearview mirror and make sure that no one else is coming up behind him, but man, it is tight for that top 2.
How about another battle that's getting ready to shape up here in the next few minutes? Let's stay on this, but we want to pay attention to Steve Bycroft and Nicholas McConis for 4th and GTPs here in a few minutes. I think that'll be one that'll be heating up. But right now, battle on the racetrack is with these GTOs.
These GTOs are very tight together, and Dennis Neidhart looks like he's getting a little bit impatient. We've seen what happens when he gets impatient. He can tend to have a tendency to stick the nose in places where you least expect it. So Rob Olnick's going to have his head on a swivel and his eyes on that rearview mirror to make sure that Dennis doesn't make a dive on him that he doesn't expect.
By the way, Fabian Youngbluth fans, he has rejoined the race. He is laps down, but he is out there just trying to be able to salvage what he can as far as points. Remember, these guys in a season-long battle out there here today, so any point position could be key, especially given how many entries we've seen fall off today.
Yeah, definitely any of this could be important, and we're taking a look now at him going by. He's actually back up to a decent speed. His top end speed is going to be compromised, but it looks like he's got decent speed under that GTP today, so hopefully he'll be able to gain some positions back.
All right, so this is the battle I was talking about a little while ago. Nicholas McConis and Steve Bycroft starting to inch closer toward each other. In fact, Bycroft, that last time by...
Sorry to interrupt, Adam.
Line.
I got to take
ahead.
us up to the P2 in the GTPs because Andres is catching right up to the back of Arto Iamaki on the straight, and we know that these GTPs don't have a ton of draft, but it looks like Andres is going to try and make a move here around the corner. Let's see who can outbrake who.
And looking at that, trying to see it, and I think it was just a series of mistakes by R2 Iamaki the last couple of corners that allowed nothing serious, nothing we need to go look at, but it just a very small set of mistakes allowed Andreas to get back up into this position, and with now R2 Iamaki again having to hold him off.
And Dennis Neidhart just made a pass on Rob Olnick. We're seeing it on screen now in a replay. This was one of those opportunities I was talking about where Dennis Neidhart sticks his nose in where people least expect it, and he was able to cut off Rob Olnick going through the uphill and make that pass. Impressive stuff from Dennis.
And while that was going on, Joni Hagner does pull away just a little bit more from those guys. But now, maybe Neidhart, maybe he could be the one to try to cut into that lead there from Hagner just a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen Hagner's race pace. It tends to be some of the best in the field. And it's possible that Hagner's just been managing his stuff, managing his fuel and his tires a little bit here on this race, and has been just trying to survive this so far and manage the field. But now that Dennis has been freed from behind Rob Olnick, it's possible that Joni's going to have to up his pace a little bit as well.
And while that was going on, looking at Arto Iamaki and Andreas Balonchus here, they continue to run essentially nose to tail as Andreas right by looks a little bit further back on the onboard camera. Believe me, they're still pretty close as Arto Iamaki cannot separate himself here so far.
Yeah, within a quarter of a second, that is the danger zone for the GTPs. It is a huge, huge issue. And it looks like we're having word that Arto Iamaki's having some medical issues. He's starting to cramp a little bit in his throttle leg, which is causing his pace coming off a little bit. So this is a horrible, horrible time and a horrible track to have any sort of cramping when it comes to having that happen in your legs. Yes, it's horrible. It's horrible, Adam.
It is. Oh, I mean, as longtime basketball player here and everything else, I can tell you cramps, they are not fun at all. And if he's having to fight through that, that does explain the series of small but not serious mistakes that he's been making to allow Andreas to catch right back up to him. It just gets in your mind, and pain is tough to overcome. So that's going to be a very interesting storyline as we go through here to see if these get worse, because cramps, they don't typically get better until the action that you're doing to cause the cramps stops. So that's going to be tough for him, as he still has about a lap and a half here, maybe 2.5. I believe a lap and a half here to go, 2.5 to go.
And it looks like Michael Houghton's going to try and make a pass on Rob Olnick here in the GTOs. They just got to the end of the straight, and that was really close between the two of them. But Michael Houghton trying to get to the back of Rob Olnick, but he's outbraked himself going into that next sector. Phil Lake's now on his bumper. These GTOs are about as close as they've been all race.
Yeah, and we talked about whether Neidhart can get into Hagner's lead, and indeed he has. As Hagner, they're going through that section. I mean, Neidhart was almost right underneath him, his rear bumper. So Neidhart is there. Neidhart, I think, has a chance. One little slip up from Joni Hagner is going to cost him this race here at this point.
And one little slip up from Nick Makanos is also going to cost him that 4th position in the GTP. Steve Bycroft has managed to cut his way into that gap as well. As we look at that now, he's quite a bit closer to Nicholas Makanos than he has been. And as they go into the carousel here, we're going to see who's got the speed on this last sector of the course.
One thing I'm noticing out of a lot of those guys, they go over that hump on the GTOs, they're taking it a little bit easier. That one that we've talked about on the screen, of course, the Makanos-Bycroft battle with now just 0.3 of a second. We've seen Bycroft cut that down from what it was, which was about 1.3 just a few minutes ago. Bycroft, the last little bit has been the cleanest driver out on track, with the exception of the leader, Justin Albrecht. So that's going to work in his favor as he eyes trying to take that 4th position from Makanos. You got a lot of work to do, though, as it's still not easy to pass in these GTPs either.
No, none of the classes is it easy to pass, and I think it's actually harder in the GTPs because of how wide they are and how prone they are to netcode incidents. So it's really difficult to pass the GTP. Steve Bycroft losing a little bit of time to Nick Makanos here as they go through that uphill section. But as they wind back down the hill, it seems like Steve Bycroft has the measure of Nick Makanos on the braking zones.
Working their way through the green hell here today as we are working round 4 of the Kamel GT season. And been a competitive season so far. We've seen that continue here for today. Just to recap everything, Justin Albrecht, the leader now of your GTPs. He's been the leader since the drop of the green flag, a large lead over top of Artu Iamake and Andreas Valentijas. And that's looking to continue here, at least for him here, as Andreas not able to catch back up to Artu Iamake as they go through the Dotner Howe. But that GTP field has been shaken up by multiple incidents here for today, with over half that field out. Slightly cleaner has been the GTO field, but still plenty of shakeup. And although you do have your top 5 that are still running at least within sight of each other, Joni Hagner and the leader of your GTOs here, only in the last little bit's been able to start trying to gap just a touch on Neidhart. Go ahead.
Sorry, there was nearly an incident between Steve Bycroft and Nick Makanos as they came into the final corners. This was really, really close. We're going to take a look at this on the replay.
All right, and looking at Bycroft trying to make the move here, trying to aim going down the straight. And side by side. And you can see there, Bycroft having to correct the back end just a bit.
And as we're coming back live, Michael Houghton just made a pass on Rob Olnick in the GTOs as well. This was very, very close.
Oh, and still close as Olnick has to get out of the gas to avoid running into the back of Michael Houghton. Now these 3 here, this is 3rd, 4th, and 5th in your Audis. And as they've been fighting, that's allowed Neidhart and Hagner to kind of try to run away just a little bit.
Yeah, and this is Neidhart's best opportunity. This is the closest he's been to Joni Hagner this entire race, and they're coming up to the straightaway sector. Let's see whether or not he can get close enough to take advantage of that draft after they go through this final twisty bit.
And we're hearing Arto Iamake been able to ingest a little bit of salt. Once again, going back to personal experience, that'll help for a little bit, but still have a good almost 12, 13 minutes of driving here. So we'll see if that does in fact last them the rest of the way. As Adrias Valencius is still right there, and Justin Albrecht still running away with this thing.
Yeah, and it's possible, Adam, that Justin Albrecht will catch up to the back of the GTO field by the end of this race, as we're watching the battle between Arto and Valencius. And man, they are getting very close, but Justin Albrecht might have to deal with some traffic on the last part of his final lap.
Yeah, it's moments like this that we need the CNN's doctor, Sanjay Gupta, or we need Dr. Jerry Punch from ESPN to come on over here and give us the medical opinion on cramping in a race car. So,
Dr. Phil?
Not that kind of doctor. Wrong kind of doctor.
Oh, Alexia Lomas entered the pits. He is significant.
He's been hanging on to that car for quite a while. He's had a few very close calls. And looking at it, he just pulled into the pits. He didn't take a tow or anything else. I'm trying to look back to see if anything happened to him on his last lap. Oh, here an Andres
looks like
slid.
Oh, that was a really rough moment for him. That was as close as you get to losing that car at this track. That is dangerous stuff. But Dennis Neidhart now is in the tow of Joni Hagner for the lead at the GTOs. This is the most danger Joni has been under since the first 2 laps of this race, and Dennis has a head of steam.
He does, but he's going to run out of time as Dotner Howe closes up. They head toward the start-finish line, and not close enough. But if he can just run mistake-free this lap and be able to just kind of get close, he'll have a chance to probably try to do something. They should take the white flag next time by. So here in about 6.5, 7 minutes for these guys, they'll be taking the white flag.
That's what I love about this course. 6.5, 7 minutes to get you to the white flag lap as you just start the penultimate lap here. It's it's fantastic stuff. This track is just so tough on you physically, mentally. I mean, we've seen the physical impacts of it with Arto, and the mental game is what starts to get to you as you get into these final laps as well.
Talked about Fabian Youngbluth coming back out on track. I think he came back out on track and 26th or 27th overall. And the reason why he came back out on track is he's already been able to get back up to 20th overall. So already seeing those laps and those positions, and that'll be key, because that'll put him 8th position there in the GTP. So this is why getting back out on track in a race like this is important, because every spot's going to matter toward the end of the season.
Yeah, speaking of every spot mattering, Jamie Hall has not had the best last 2 weeks. Last week, he had an incident at Phillip Island, and this week, he is back 15 seconds behind this battle that we're seeing on screen between Michael Houghton, Rob Olnick, and Phil Blake. He lost the draft on the second lap, and ever since then, he's just not been able to climb his way forward. It's possible this isn't one of his best tracks, but it's also more likely that he just hasn't had draft the entire day, and that loses you a good second and a half per lap around here. So add to that a couple struggles on track, and that's going to be some big trouble for him.
Oh, I'd say it'd be a second half just down the Dotner Howe. At least my opinion. Everybody's experiences may differ, but that's still significant not being back there. And it's with a relatively clean car too. So I think at the very least, Jamie Hall can take away that he's been relatively, incident-free here for today, even though he is mired back there in 6th position in class. But still, that's better than what he's had to overcome the last few weeks. Looking at now the McConaughey and Bycroft battle, that once again is closed up to about 0.4 of a second as Bycroft trying to overcome that small little deal a little bit ago. Oh, by the way, let's go to second now in the GTPs. Andres was right back there. He had fallen well off after his mistake a few minutes ago, and now is caught right back up to Arto Iamake.
Yeah, believe it or not, Arto has been cutting into Justin Albrecht's lead. Granted, not enough to likely make a pass on this lap, because Arto, I think, is trying to manage his speed to those GTOs in front. But look how close Andres is through this fast section. This is such impressive driving. Here goes Andres around the outside. Is he going to try and make this work? Yes, he is.
And this is the white flag lap for these guys. And so it's getting close to now or never time as Arto is going to put a wheel off in the grass. You see some of the dirt getting kicked up. Andres is going to be able to pull ahead of him here. R2 not able to come back. Now R2 needs to stick with him and maybe try to get a run down the Dottner Howe, if not earlier than that.
Talk about courage and skilled driving for both of these drivers. Look how quickly they went through that sector. These guys are on fire right now.
Albrecht has significant damage.
Yes, he does. He has significant damage.
Oh, he was actually around. He's so far ahead that he didn't
just about 30 seconds.
Looking back and looking here, this is your leader in the Nissan GTPs. And I want to say this was going through, I'm not as familiar with the track names as, like, say, Joe Peak is here, but I want to say
it should be right here. Oh, my goodness.
Post-drop. It just puts a wheel off, and then it has to catch it from there.
Adam, Andres is only 6 seconds behind now. As we watch this incident happen again for Justin Albrecht, Andres might have a win on hand here.
And Justin now doing what he can with his damaged car, but it is down on power. It is not driving straight here at the moment. And I can see Andreas in the rearview mirror of Justin Albrecht's machine. He is back there.
Oh my goodness.
He's gonna catch him before the end of this lap. He's going to catch him, and there's nothing that Justin Albrecht can do to hold them off.
And in the points, Arto Iamake is going to pass Justin Albrecht. Justin, after missing last week, was on for a win. Just got it upset one time on the final lap. And there goes Andreas by. This is huge.
Did not think that pass a few minutes ago would be for the win, but here it is. And now Albrecht is going to get passed by Arto Iamake. Andreas now has the win in sight. If he could just finish about the last, third of this lap, I believe is where we're at. It's tough even for us, too. It's 154 turns around this place. He goes through the carousel, gets through the carousel clean. So does Iamake, but Iamake, I think, is too far back unless Andreas makes a mistake here.
Expect Iamake to turn on the afterburners now. He knows that a win is at hand if he could just get past Andreas. It wasn't possible before, but I expect Arto Iamake to be taking some risks here on this last lap to try and get up to Andreas. But don't expect Andreas to just lay over and let Arto get by. These two, if they come back together, it's going to be intense. But Andreas seems to have the pace on Arto right now. Arto seeming to struggle on tires.
We're going to stay with this battle here as they get to the start-finish line, but I'll tell you, your GTOs and your Audis, that battle is just as intense, but they are running about almost 4 minutes behind these guys. So we'll be able to call the last 4 minutes of that race. We'll just follow the GTPs here as they come across the start-finish line in a moment's time. As Andreas gets around the lap traffic there, that's Marco Cesena that he just passed. Oh, okay, actually, we need to go GTOs now here in their pass for the lead.
Yeah, Dennis Neidhart just made it past Joni Hagner through the first sector. This is one of those crazy moments. Joni Hagner, he missed a shift coming out and moved over to allow Dennis Neidhart not to run into the back of him. What a gentlemanly move from Joni Hagner to not force Dennis Neidhart to try and check up again. We've seen him have to do it before, but Joni right on his tail again. The lead in the GTPs, by the way, is spreading out even more. 3 seconds now between Andreas and Ardo up front.
But now Andreas has entered the Dotner Howe, the long back straightaway heading toward sector, the start-finish line. So he'll be at there momentarily.
Let's stay here, though, as Joni Hagner thinks about going on Dennis Neidhart. He's going to have to make a pass in one of these first sectors where it's fast. Otherwise, he's not going to have an opportunity. He's right on the back of Dennis, though.
GTOs have been a crazy race all race long. But now Andreas Valenicis, he's going to come across and he is going to take the win in the Nissan GTPs and the overall race win here at the Nürburgring. He is the survivor as the eye of the tiger. He got it here for today. A big win is looking at your final order there. That's going to be Arto Iamake and Justin Albrecht. Bycroft not eventually able to get around McConis. And now we can shift our attentions to that Audi GTO class as Hagner going to try to come back on Neidhart here. These guys, as I mentioned, now running about 4.5 seconds back the last time by. So we still have a long ways to go before we get to the start-finish line for these guys.
Back report, Justin Albrecht came home in 5th position after that damage. Another bad week for him. This is going to put Arto Iamake up even further in the points in the GTPs. But on screen now, we're looking on board with Joni Hagner as he chases down Dennis Neidhart.
Neidhart runs a little bit wide in that corner, but Hagner grabs the curb on the exit. So any effect there is nullified. That battle there for 3rd, 4th, and 5th in class been kind of broken up a little bit by Fabian Youngbluth trying to come through. Youngbluth trying to do it very patiently, but he has broken up that battle just a bit.
Yeah, and as you were saying, you called it exactly right, Adam. Youngbluth is up to 8th position right now, just getting back on track after that opening lap incident. So he's made up a ton of positions and is going to get more points today than half of the GTP field.
Some great runs out there here for today. Neidhart may be able to sneak one away at the end of this thing, but they still have a long way to go before we see if that does in fact end up happening. Neidhart, of course, came into this race 7th in the point standings, had 2 top 5s out of the 3 races so far. Looking to maybe come away with that race win here for today, but he's gonna have to hold off Joni Hagner as Joni is got right back up to his rear bumper. You got Fabian Youngbluth back there now as well.
This could really break up this battle if Fabian chooses an inopportune time for Joni Hagner to get by, but it also could allow Joni to get closer even if Fabian chooses the right time to get by.
Fabian knows. He's backed off. I don't expect him to do anything here, and if it does, it'll be down to Dotner Howe. But right now, he's letting Neidhart and Hagner settle it.
Yeah, Hagner actually has some rear end damage from that punt he got from Michael Houghton earlier in the race. So as they get closer and closer to one another, that damage starts to go away more and more as Joni Hagner gets into the draft of Dennis Neidhart. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Dennis Neidhart can withstand the pressure. This is the final lap. Tires are hot. You're hot in the car, and everything's just getting more and more difficult physically and mentally. Let's see whether Neidhart can hold it out.
So far, so good for Neidhart. But we're starting to get into the portion of the track where draft is going to play a big role out there. And by the way, you mentioned it was Houghton that got into the bag. It was actually Olenek earlier in the race that got into him. And I'm kind of wondering now if that front end damage on Olenek is kind of what's, kind of hurt him in the later stages of the race, as the tires probably wore off a little bit more on the front end of that machine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that definitely was the case. I talked about that and the Audi's perceptive ability to gain engine damage earlier on. But look at this. Dennis Neidhart quite fast through this section where Joni Hagner falling a little bit further behind. But as they come up to the harder braking points, it looks like Joni Hagner's car with that Glacier Racing setup is just a little bit more pointed on the nose. Dennis Neidhart seems to be struggling a little bit more with grip. That might be the factor that changes the end of this race. Look at how fast Joni is through there.
Got through the Klein's carousel fast, and that is what you need to set yourself up nicely for the Dotner How. Now it's a drafting battle. Can Joni Hagner get up to the likes of Dennis Neidhart? He's kind of pulling off a little bit here.
He wants to choose the right moment. He doesn't want to pass Dennis early. Now he drops in behind. Dennis is going to try and cut him off here. Here we go. This is the moment. This is what's going to decide the end of this race.
Joni Hagner has the momentum. He has the draft. He's going to be able to pull alongside of him as we head to the Nordschleife and eventually to the start-finish line. Is he going to be able to get back to him? He clears Neidhart. I don't think Neidhart's going to be able to do anything unless Hagner makes a mistake here in the final few corners. We're going to give this race win now. Joni Hagner coming away with the win in the Audi GTOs. Fantastic run from Dennis Neidhart, Joni Hagner, and you got to give a lot of credit to Michael Houghton. Philip Lake was able to get around Rob Olenek in that last little bit. Fantastic drive from these Audis. All right, with that, Jamie Hall still getting ready to come across the start-finish line here in a moment. Ben Lafter will be right behind him. Ben Lafter actually in a fight right now with Franco Scurry. Ben Lafter just got around Franco Scurry.
Yes,
come
he
to
did.
think of it. So, but that battle gets settled out before we hit the start-finish line. Tomas Balsik, one of the last remaining cars. Joseph Erlbeck is still out there. Outside of that, guys having a little bit of fun, even though not everybody's come across the start-finish line. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll run down the finishing order and the havoc that the Nürburgring brought today. We'll be right back. As I mentioned, the havoc that the Green Hell has wrought today has been incredible. We lost half the field, but the field that remained put on a whale of a show out there this afternoon. Let's go ahead and look at those race results. Leading your Nissans in the overall race win, and I'm going to apologize profusely. Andreas, Valentijas. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, I am so profusely sorry. On second up is going to be Arto Iamake. Third is Nicholas McConis. Steve Bycroft in fourth position. Justin Albrecht in fifth. And just the heartbreak for Justin Albrecht, who led all of this race up until the white flag lap and unfortunately had an incident and dropped back. Dustin Gerarder in sixth position. And Joni Hagner coming away with the big win in the Audi GTOs. Dennis Neidhart right behind him, with Joni Hagner getting around Dennis Neidhart, coming down the back straightaway. Michael Houghton in third position overall. Philip Lake in fourth position for those Audis. And the back half of the top 10 overall, we'll throw it over to Adam.
Yeah, Rob Olnick's going to come home in the sixth position in the GTOs after getting some of that damage. Jamie Hall fell off the draft early, unable to gain it back. Ben Lafter making the pass on Franco Scurry there at the end of the race, with Thomas Velchek and Joseph Earlbeck rounding out that GTO field. Then we have Alexi Aloma, after his damage, was able to come home in seventh position in the GTPs, with Marco Sassana and Jim McGill snaking home very slowly in those GTOs. Jim McGill actually wrecking out, with Fabian Jungbluth coming home in eighth position after recovering with a significant 20 minutes of repairs rather.
Yeah, so Fabian Youngblood showing exactly what you need to do if you're in the fight for points. John Atkinson coming home in 21st overall, 22nd overall. Sadra McGreevy, Ruala having trouble, Gerber having trouble. Big names in the back half of this field. Alawatu having trouble. Havdal falls. Just a very rough day for some of those guys, and it all started very early. But one guy that did not have a rough day at all, but he did still have to fight for his class win. We've got Adam Lindgren here. He's going to talk to Joni Hagner.
Joni, what an amazing opportunity for a pass at the end. When you pulled off to the side to set up that draft, how close did you think it would be coming across the line?
Well, I actually calculated that I cannot make safely on the final lap on the lead, so I made a mistake and let Dennis pass me. And I have trained quite a lot here, and I know the gaps where to attack, and I know that if I get the decent cap there, so I will be winning easily.
So Joni, throughout most of that race, it seemed like you were pacing the field a little bit. Were you managing your tires and your car a little bit, or were you going all out the whole time?
Actually, I cannot go like full attack on this track. I will kill my car doing that. So I'm like driving 90%. So there is a lot of room to go faster, but risky.
Yeah, definitely very risky. And how difficult is this track around here to try and manage in the Audi GTO? We know that it lacks a little bit of front end grip, but how dangerous are those curbs around here?
Curbs are quite dangerous, and there are a couple places where are like bumps and jumps and such, so this car doesn't like those.
Well, fantastic win today, Joni. You are on a roll this season, and we look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
That was Joni Hagner, our winner in the GTOs, and it looks like we have Michael Houghton next with Adam.
Yeah, Michael, hey, great drive out there here for today. I know you were in the mix of it all race long, only to kind of lose a couple of seconds there right at the end, but still had to fight for third position, taking home at least the podium spot in the Audis. Tell us about the day.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the tightest Nürburgring races I've ever competed in, and having us 4 or 5 guys run together for the first 5-6 laps, it was you couldn't make a mistake. It was so intense. I started sweating so much, man, and started overthinking, but we pulled it through.
Yeah, and pulled it through. You did. I mean, we were commenting the fact that Nürburgring always puts on high intensity races, but not the intensity of a lot of cars coming down to the finish line, and that's what you got here for today. But great battles there between Philip Lake and Rob Olenek. Of course, next week going to Zandvoort, which is a totally different track. What do you think about carrying the momentum onto there?
Well, this definitely picks up the momentum, especially from my bad luck at Phillip Island. So I'm heading into Zandvoort with my chin held high and looking to put a great show.
All right. Well, hey, congratulations on that podium here for today, and we'll catch up with you hopefully next week.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for all you do.
All right. So that was Michael Houghton right there. And next up, we're going to have Philip Lake, and he's going to talk to Adam Lindgren.
Phil, looks like you had quite a race this race. You were just hanging on to the back of that draft for quite a while. How hard is it to pass around here? Because we know that you made up 2 positions, but like it looked really difficult to pass around here today.
Yeah, it's I didn't have the pace today. I knew I had to just hang on to the lead group. So I didn't want to overtake anybody because I'd lose the guys in front. So I thought it was best just to stay at the back, wait for the last lap. Rob was pretty kind to me and going down on the final straight there. He didn't really fight that too hard. And Vil obviously, unfortunately, lost it at Flugplatz. So I didn't really overtake anybody other than a draft pass on the last lap.
Yeah, well, we didn't have to deal with much traffic today, but traffic is usually not the story around here. How challenging is this track for you when it comes to practicing and getting consistent times in?
Yeah, the consistency is okay. It's the outright lap time that some of these guys can do is just nuts. There's another 4 or 5 seconds up to the fastest qualifying times from what I managed. I don't know where that time is. And that's the challenge is to stay close, to be in with a chance at the end.
Well, we're heading to Zandvoort next week, which is entirely different from this track. What are your thoughts going into that race? Is that one of your favorite tracks, or is that one that you'd rather see not on the calendar?
I'm looking forward to it. It's like you say, it's a different kind of track, and it's the first kind of small twisty track we've been to this season. I usually prefer those, so definitely looking forward to it. And it's been a while since we went there last.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there, and we look forward to being there ourselves as well. So, Phil, great race today and good finish.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was Phil in and around the lake, and he is coming home today in the 4th position in the GTOs, Adam.
Yeah, and that's a great race out there here for today, and that's all we have as far as interviews. Just I was hoping to be able to have at least a preview of maybe some of the point standings because of just how shook up everything was. But I'm going to guess that the other race and the other split's still going on. So we don't have those for you quite yet. And that's okay. But today put on a great show at the Nürburgring. Adam, I know you're here all the time with the Kamel GT guys. What are your expectations as we go to the Zandvoort?
My expectations are just as much chaos with quite a bit more of the multi-class action. We're going to see a lot of GTPs moving very fast through GTOs, and the GTOs are going to be struggling a lot with grip on that track. So it's going to be interesting to see who can pull out with the win and who can avoid the wrecks next week.
All righty. Well, thank you very much here for joining us today. I got to thank a lot of people. First of all, one thing I want to mention, we didn't get a chance to get to it in the pre-race show. Definitely check out the merchandise store for GSRC. If you're a big fan of this channel, go ahead, support us, buy a shirt, buy a hat, buy something. Even got little stickers on there for you. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Amjad, Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you'd like to support the channel, as I mentioned, head on over to that merchandise store at GSRC.storenv. That's just one E between the two. .com. The link is in the description below. Next race next week, same time, same channel, and we'll be at Zandvoort as these guys will try to tackle that place. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.